Good evening, Americans, and welcome to the Ed Show live from Minneapolis. Clint Eastwood stars in his best role yet, a voice for the American worker. Conservatives tried to kill the American automobile industry. To quote Josie Wales, dying ain't much of a living, boy. This is the Ed Show. Let's get to work.
Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. It's halftime America.
An American icon is telling an American success story, and conservatives aren't having it.
I was frankly offended by it.
Tonight, reaction to the Halftime in America ad with United Auto Workers President Bob King and Michigan Congressman Gary Peters.
I deserve a second term, but we're not done.
Brand new poll numbers show the American people agree with that statement. E.J. Dionne and Joan Walsh on the president's surge. Republicans in Congress are about to pass a union-busting bill, and the Democrats may help them out. We'll bring you the report. And racism rears its head in a Republican Super Bowl ad, and the candidate behind the ad isn't backing down.
Your economy get very weak. Ours get very good. We take your jobs. Thank you, Debbie. Spend it now.
Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. We come to you from Minnesota where the caucus is tomorrow, but this is the big story tonight. It basically is the ad the entire country is talking about, and for a good reason. The Chrysler commercial with Clint Eastwood from last night's Super Bowl, I think, speaks for itself.
It's halftime. Both teams are in their locker room discussing what they can do to win this game in the second half. It's halftime in America, too. People are out of work and they're hurting, and they're all wondering what they're going to do to make a comeback. And we're all scared because this isn't a game.
The first 30 seconds of that ad, so powerful. I mean, did you notice that it was shot on film for effect? I mean, the voice. Clint Eastwood, Mr. True Grit, Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. Dirty Harry, into the city talking about Detroit and the way America can come back. I mean, it captivated the audience that I was with yesterday. I mean, it's a tribute to the American worker and a success story. Yeah, it's kind of a locker room pep talk, which is cool, but it also recognized the people in this country who are going through a lot of hurt right now.
The people of Detroit know a little something about this. They almost lost everything. But we all pulled together. Now Motor City is fighting again.
We all pulled together. The rebirth of the American automobile industry certainly is a story worth celebrating, but let's not get carried away with saying we all came together. This was an extremely heavy lift for some in Washington. A majority of the American people opposed giving loans to Chrysler and to General Motors. Top Republican officials were also against the loans, including the current frontrunner for the Republican nomination.
There's no question but that if you just write a check that you're going to see these companies go out of business ultimately, don't just give them a check and expect them to spend it the way they've been spending the last few years.
Well, the American taxpayer saw it differently. Loaning the automobile industry money was unpopular. A lot of Americans didn't want it. The majority of Americans didn't want it. But it was the right thing to do. It was the moral thing to do. The capital markets, well, they were not in a position to rescue the automobile industry with any loan or capital. Wall Street was in a meltdown. So what did President Obama do? He threw the Hail Mary pass, and it ended up on Super Bowl Sunday. His administration turned to a senior advisor, Ron Bloom, who had been down this road before about reorganizing, and he turned to him and said, I got a plan. We can turn this thing around. The auto loans saved, and I want you to hear this number, saved more than 1 million jobs in 2010 and prevented nearly $97 billion in personal income losses. The weak economy would have been further damaged by those losses if we hadn't done this. This commercial, my friends, was the right message. It was at the right time. It was perfect for America, and I bet it caught the attention of everybody in every living room in this country. The Super Bowl was the best possible place for it. But wait a minute. Karl Rove, I don't know if he liked the outcome, but he and his conservative friends did not like. He didn't like it a bit because it turned into a political football.
I was frankly offended by it. I'm a huge fan of Clint Eastwood. I thought it was an extremely well-done ad, but it is a sign of what happens when you have Chicago-style politics, and the President of the United States and his political minions are, in essence, using our tax dollars to buy corporate advertising and the best wishes of the management, which is benefited by getting a bunch of our money that they'll never pay back.
See, there's just a bunch of middle classers in that ad. You see those firefighters in there and those school teachers? Those are the kind of folks that the conservatives don't care about. Chrysler has already paid back the loan and General Motors is on schedule. But if Karl Rove wants to be offended, let him be offended. Rove is offended by a great American success story. Clint Eastwood is right. This is not a game. This is serious business to a lot of Americans turning this economy around. The CEO of Chrysler couldn't be more clear about the intention of the ad on Super Bowl Sunday. He said the message is sufficiently universal and neutral, that it should be appealing to everybody in this country, and I sincerely hope that it doesn't get utilized as a political fodder in a debate. Well, you know what? It is. That's the way it is. Conservatives still believe that the auto loan was the wrong thing to do. They're on the wrong side of history, and their only hope is to politicize good news, just like we saw all the political talk last Friday when the job numbers came out. But the message of this ad is just too strong.
How do we come from behind? How do we come together? And how do we win? Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime, America. And our second half's about to begin.
Yeah, the big question is, how do we come together? This ad was about the strength of the American spirit, but it is also a love letter to the people who stood behind American workers to make this rescue possible. The American taxpayer was the people that made this possible. The questions that were in that commercial are so profound. Where do we go from here? How do we come together? Isn't that what we're asking Washington? So what if there's a political undertone to this ad? The fact is, it's the ad everybody's talking about, and it cuts right to every kitchen table in this country that was affected by what taxpayers did to help an industry turn around. The capital markets couldn't do it. There was nobody stepping up to write a check to do it, to go into business. There were Republicans out there who were saying that this is a dead end, that this is the wrong road to follow. Richard Shelby of Alabama, I have the tape. You shouldn't have said that. You were wrong. So where do we go from here? Well, let's just use this as a template, that if we believe in American workers, that if we believe in Hollywood, like Clint Eastwood believes in the American worker. Eastwood's comment tonight, he's not in the Obama crowd. You don't have to be in the Obama crowd to be for the American worker. You don't have to be in the Republican crowd or the Democratic crowd to be for the American worker. It plays to our best instincts as Americans to give somebody a lifeline to do better as a worker and compete, and that's what this story is all about. It was great stuff. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: will voters hold Republicans accountable for trying to kill the American auto industry? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. You can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. I'm joined tonight by Bob King, who is the president of the United Auto Workers, and also Congressman Gary Peters of Michigan, where Chrysler is in his district. Gentlemen, great to have you both with us tonight, because I know you've been on the ground floor with this story all along. Bob, I got to ask you, when you saw the ad, what were your emotions?
I felt great. It was a fantastic ad. It really honored our membership.
Go ahead.
No, it really honored our membership. Our membership made a lot of sacrifices. We worked together with management. It was a great example of management, labor, community, and government all working together.
Here's Clint Eastwood's statement about the ad. I'm certainly not politically affiliated with Mr. Obama. It was meant to be a message just about job growth in the spirit of America. I think all politicians will agree with it. Congressman, I'm not so sure about that. I respect Clint Eastwood, but I remember the days when there was a lot of people out there saying that this wasn't going to work. What is it about conservatives and, of course, Karl Rove's message? What's your response to that?
Well, my response to it is that the ad is very simple. It's just a factual ad about what actually happened in Detroit and with the auto manufacturers, that the investment in American workers has been successful. It's a great turnaround. Mr. Rove apparently just doesn't like facts. He's not a guy that ever lets facts get in the way of his opinion, and we're seeing that once again, that his opinion is trumping the facts of the situation. President Obama stepped up, made what was an unpopular decision around the country, but was right for American workers, not just in Michigan, but all across our country.
Congressman, do you think it was the right thing to take that ad out and do that by Chrysler? Do you think it was the right thing to do?
It is absolutely the right thing to do. The American public needs to understand that when you bet on American workers, you will win. You will win every time. And we had a situation, as you mentioned at the top of your program, where because of the greed on Wall Street that brought our economy to its knees, we had a situation where we almost lost a major manufacturing industry in our country. Had we lost the auto industry, it also would have meant middle-class Americans across this country would have found their livelihood endangered. You've got to make something in this country. You've got to build something. That's what the American auto industry is. It's a manufacturer. We need to stand up for manufacturing and make sure that middle-class families have the opportunity to earn a decent livelihood.
Bob King, the United Auto Workers took a haircut. I mean, you caved in on some things you had to help out, and now there's employees that are getting bonuses. Take us down that road. How tough was that to do?
It was a huge sacrifice for our membership, but our membership wanted to support the companies. They wanted to turn around. They wanted to save jobs in America. And in this last set of bargaining, they put the priority on more investment, more product in America to get some of their neighbors hired. I couldn't be prouder of our UAW membership. And they're making the highest quality and the most productive, highest quality product and most productive plants. It was a huge victory. And again, President Obama, Gary's exactly right. Without his leadership, it would not have happened.
I went right to my phone right after that commercial, and I was anxious to see how the Twitter world was going to respond to it, and it was overwhelmingly positive, and it was fun to read just to see how people were responding to this. But Congressman Karl Rove says that the taxpayers are still on the hook for the auto loan. Take us down that road.
He's wrong once again. He's not going to let facts get in the way of his opinion. There's still a ways to go, but the Chrysler loans are being paid back with interest. Certainly all the loans that were made by President Obama have been paid back with interest. Money from the General Motors investment is also being paid back. Shares have been sold to the public. There's still some government money involved, but now with the success of General Motors, which as you've reported on your program has been very successful. In fact, they're looking at perhaps a multi-billion-dollar profit at General Motors. That's a big turnaround from where they were, and as a result of that, the remaining investment the taxpayers have in General Motors will certainly be paid back, hopefully most of it, but whatever is not paid back, and it won't be that much, you've got to put that in comparison as to what would have happened if you let these companies disappear. As you mentioned, 1 million jobs are impacted by it. Folks who have jobs now, who are working, who are paying taxes, who are able to provide for their families and pursue that American dream, that would have all washed away if it wasn't for this investment in American manufacturing. The cost would have been catastrophic for our whole nation. To even think that we would allow a major manufacturing sector in our economy to disappear, to me, is completely irresponsible from any elected official. We have obligations to the people back home, to hardworking people who are playing by the rules each and every day. All they want is a decent shot at a decent wage, decent health care, and an opportunity to retire with dignity. Yeah. That's what manufacturing jobs do, and that's what this investment really returned to us.
Gary Peters, Bob King, great to have you with us tonight. Appreciate your time on this story.